I had a really good time with Trevor Thompson on this episode. I had initially met him about a year before this was recorded, almost to the day, and he was looking at getting in some deals. He had some deals that had fallen out, looking to get in deals as an active partner. He's been in a bunch as a passive investor. But in the 12 months since I spoke to him, he had recently joined a pretty large real estate team, and now he's a general partner in 5 deals. He has some awesome stories about meeting Michael Jackson, some of the places he used to work. Super, super cool. Very smart guy. Trevor is just full of good stories and lots of good information. So thanks for checking out this episode. You definitely don't want to miss it. Welcome to Passive Investors Playbook. I'm your host, Charlie Hardage. In each episode, we'll sit down with successful people that turn to real estate to build and grow their wealth. We do a deep dive into why they chose real estate and what makes it so attractive to them. We explore why people in their industry could also benefit from passively investing in real estate. Whether you're a beginner or an experienced investor, a doctor or a professional athlete, love your job or hate your job, our show is here to help you build a profitable real estate portfolio while maximizing your free time and minimizing stress. So sit back, relax, and get ready to learn from some of the best in the business. Welcome to Passive Investors Playbook. All right, thank you for listening to Passive Investors Playbook. I'm Charlie Hardage, and today I have a very special guest, Trevor Thompson. Trevor spent the majority of his career in the entertainment space, working at an indoor skydiving company. Over the past few years, Trevor has shifted into real estate investing. He has become extremely passionate about learning about real estate investing, and his goal is to help 1,000 people reach financial independence through real estate. Trevor is an avid learner and loves to connect with like-minded people. He has recently partnered with Massive Capital, a real estate investment company, as the Vice President of Investor Engagement. In this position, Trevor is creating a community for investors where they educate, inspire, and create a place for investors to feel part of an investor-friendly network. Trevor is originally from Niagara Falls, Canada, but currently resides in Austin, Texas. Trevor, I'm very excited to have you today. Thank you so much for being here. Do you mind telling the audience a little more about yourself?
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I'm excited to be here as well. So all of my life, I was in the attractions and entertainment industry. So I actually started with Ripley's, believe it or not, at age 13, worked there all through high school. I did 18 years with Guinness World Records, including running the Empire State Building, moving to UK and actually running one of our operations there for 6 months, reorganizing it. One of my biggest moments there was we gave Michael Jackson a Lifetime Achievement Award, and I actually had lunch with him, if you can imagine. When he signed the biggest record contract with Sony, the president of Sony Records was there, so that was pretty cool. And then I switched to iFly Indoor Skydiving, started working for the original owner, and oddly enough, at our very first team meeting, he gave everybody a copy of Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Wow.
And I believe it, I read it, it was great. But I did what everybody else did. I put it back on the shelf and I kept doing the rat race, right? And then with iFly, I worked a little over 20 years. I opened 46 of 80 worldwide locations. We got bought up by private equity, which gave me some money. So I started passively investing in real estate. And then with COVID came along and I was thinking of leaving. What I always say, I was looking over the cliff going, should I jump or not? And COVID made the decision for me because they basically laid off about 70% of the company, went into survival mode versus development mode, and switched to full-time real estate investing.
Okay, so first off, I think I should redo the intro because I didn't talk about Guinness Book of
That's
World
fine.
Records or Michael Jackson. I mean, that was amazing.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, yeah. I don't usually, and I actually made a video. It's on my YouTube channel. Am I the world's most interesting man? And you know, lots of things. The world's tallest lady used to actually work for me. It's kind of odd and sort of freak showish, but so yeah, it was in, you know, and I used to travel with her, 7'7", going through the airport. You got a lot of eyeballs.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Okay, so you were in the entertainment space. Basically, I think you said you were 13 or 14.
Yeah,
You did that your whole career.
whole career.
And you read or you didn't read Rich Dad Poor Dad?
I did
correct?
later, like
Okay.
25 years ago now.
Okay.
But you know, and I was always interested in real estate, but very much like the rest of the world, I was afraid of toilets, tenants, and trash. You know, I just didn't understand it, didn't know anything about it. You know, and then Rich Dad Poor Dad opened my eyes, but I was still intimidated because I was super busy at work. And then when I did get a big payday at work, I got killed on income tax, and I went, wait a minute, you've got no plan B. You know, you need to have your money working for you, not you working for your money, blah, blah, blah. And so I said, that's it. I'm not going to stop until I figure out this real estate investing. I went to a conference and I learned about syndication, and my mind was blown. And I went, where have you been all my life? It was like finding my true love, kind of. And then since then, now I've been a little more than 5 years, and I've passively invested in 21 deals myself. 7 have gone full cycle, and now I'm on the active side with 7 deals.
Man, I love that story. And so just for the audience, and we were talking about this before we started recording, but
Yeah.
I talked to Trevor. We spoke about a year ago, or that's when we first met. And I remember you had maybe not quite 21 deals passively, but it was still quite a few. But you were looking for your first deal as an active partner.
Yeah.
And when you filled out the form for the bio, you said you had 7 deals. And I was like, how the heck did you do that? So Trevor, I mean, you have just been on absolute fire over the last 12 months, and obviously a lot longer than that, because you don't just hear about something and you jump at it. And you know, I read in the intro that you are an absolute avid learner, and I love that. I think for me, when I was interested in real estate, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, changed my life, you know, opened my eyes big time. I heard that quote that you said, don't work for your money, have your money work for you.
Yeah.
That didn't make any sense to me. I was like, oh, that's great. You know, that I love that, but I didn't really understand it.
Yeah, it's hard to understand.
Yeah.
You know, and then Warren Buffett says it a little bit differently, that if you don't make money in your sleep, you will work until you die. And if you think about that, that is super powerful, right? So make money in your sleep. When you think about that, that means there's no effort. You're sleeping. You're not even awake. I mean, it's like the opposite of active, right? And then your money still is working for you, right? So when you've invested in a syndication, and we can talk a little bit about what that is if you want, but when you invest in it, someone else is doing all of the work, and your money is just part of that deal combined with bank debt, and it's doing the work for you. And once my brain got wrapped around that, I went, oh, I get it. And then even in my business, in my entrepreneurial business, you know, we bought back franchise locations, and we did exactly what we do when we buy apartments. We go in there with a little bit more capital, more systems, more professionalism, you know, background of marketing, put some, you know, and we did what's called increase the EBITDA, which is earnings before depreciation, interest, and taxes. Very standard business. In apartments and multifamily and stuff, we call it net operating income. It's almost exactly the same thing. And then our business, you sold for a multiple of it, and then multifamily, you sell for a multiple of it. So, but it was funny how none of those lines aligned, right? Nothing really aligned. And then I just went to this seminar. It was like a 3-day thing. And I remember sitting there going, how did I not know this? How in the, where, what kind of, because I've been, you know, I'm super interested in things and learning things and loved real estate and got a lot of friends buying different stuff and buying businesses. But it was when I finally just got, I get it. I give my money, they combine it with other people's money, they get a bank loan to pay off the rest of the money. So we use leverage, right? I remember from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, leverage. And then you go buy something and you're actually buying something real. Like it's a building and there's people that live there. And if you think about it, the need for housing in America is huge. From the Stone Age, they still lived in caves, right? They still had places to live. So it's like been a basic need of mankind forever. And we all know there's a crisis of it. We all know there's a lack of affordability in it. And I don't know why I didn't understand it. And once I understood it, obviously, I'm a compulsive and, I'm an all in kind of guy.
Yeah.
And obviously, 21 investments and 7 active deals, I'm pretty much all in kind of guy.
Yeah, man, I love that. You said a lot of really good things there. And that Warren Buffett quote, I always butcher that. So thank you for saying it correctly, because I always embarrass myself, and I'm going to try to repeat it. Don't make money. If you don't make money in your sleep, you will work until you die.
Yeah. And when you think about that, unpack that, right? Like, and it's true. And I did it. I mean, I didn't start till my 50s. And that's why my mission now is to talk more about this, right? And I hope that something I say just sparks something in somebody to be able to think about that, because I did it for 58 years until I started investing in real estate. I traded time for money. That's what a job is. You trade time for money. Now, I got lucky that we got bought up by a private equity company as a long-term person in the company. I did get a payday. And that's what really spawned my real estate career. When you think about it, it's just so powerful that now my money's, and I used to think, well, I got a few in the stock market and, a few other traditional places, but nothing beats the power of real hard assets.
Yeah. I love, we've talked about Rich Dad, Poor Dad, how wealthy, their mindset's just so different than I'll say ours, but what ours used to be, right?
Yeah.
Not because we hear certain things and maybe they don't hit us right away, or like you, Rich, you put the book on the shelf and came back to it, bunch of dust and had to dust it off. I've read that book so many times and I still learn every time I learn something. I'm like, how did I miss this? But one of the things that you did after working for, I don't know, 35 years or so, you started buying
longer than that. So I started work. So it was funny because my daughter got married and I was back up in Niagara Falls where I'm from. And all of a sudden it hit me. Hold on a minute. 50 years ago, because I'm 63, 50 years ago, I'm standing at the street corner in front of Ripley's, believe it or not, going, wait a minute, 50 years ago,
Wow.
I started working here. And it was like, wow, where did my life go? Pretty wild, right?
Yeah. But and I didn't want to date you there, Trevor. So you've been working for 35 years or so, maybe 25. But what I love about your story is you got some money from some equity, I guess, when the private equity company bought you out. You got a nice payday. You looked at your check, you're like, this is great. And then you looked at it 9 months later, whenever you had to pay taxes, and you're like, what the heck happened to,
well, they took the taxes out when they did it.
Okay.
And I stared at it for hours in disbelief that much of it was gone.
Yeah.
Really, that much of it was gone. It was staggering. And
and
there was no way to beat it because it came as 100% ordinary income on a W-2. And, and to be honest, that's what I went, shame on you. You've got nothing else doing, shame on you. That's all I said. Like, so I went from elated, right? And it was still, don't get me wrong, it was still a nice payday, but it could have been a lot better if I had a different plan, if I had different options,
Yeah. Well, hey, you've learned a lot since then. And now you have, I think that's 28 investments altogether. And I know some of those have sold.
Yeah, 7 have sold. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, you still have a very nice chunk of deals, and now your money's working for you,
Yes.
which is probably has completely changed your life if I had to guess, just from
Yeah, it's definitely different.
Yeah.
Now some of the investments, because of the way my original investments when I first started, I was not interested in cash flow. I was interested in wealth creation, right?
Yep.
So I invested in a lot of things that didn't produce cash flow. So, a new build 300 plus unit in Houston, Texas, and they just finished the building, starting to lease it out. Obviously when you're building something, there's no cash flow. I invested in a new build storage in Charlotte. It hasn't even finished yet. I've invested in a couple of land deals, and those ones don't produce cash flow. So there's a lot of different things I invested in. So the cash flow wasn't necessarily coming because that wasn't what I wanted. That wasn't my investment strategy. And in fact, I want to talk a little bit about that. And I want to talk about one other thing that people got to get their heads around, and it's compounding your money. So let's just think of this, and I'm going to use $100,000. I'm going to use very simplistic math to make my story work. So you put $100,000 into a real estate syndication. On average, on general, the goal is to double your money every 5 years. So in 5 years, that's $200,000. Reinvest the whole $200,000. 5 years, it's $400,000. Reinvest the 400, 800, 1.6, 3.2 million. From one investment, reinvested. Where in the world can you do that? Ever, anywhere.
And that's a passive investment.
That's a passive investment. Yeah. Now, I've assumed you've paid no tax on it. I've assumed a lot of things, right? But in reality, think about that, right? So I started in my 50s. So if I'd have started 30 years ago, and I'd have put just, and I could have probably scraped up and saved it because I had always had good jobs, lots of cash flow. My sister used to tease me that I was the poorest rich person she knew because I just, I did what everybody does, right? I go, I got a raise, let's get a new car, let's get a bigger house, let's do this. But if I'd have really understood this concept as a younger man and done nothing but invested $100,000 once and let it roll for 30 years, so powerful. And then imagine if every 5 years I could save up 100,000 and keep compounding that. That is life altering for everybody, right? For everybody. But it's the power of compounding your money, which is a whole other story that a lot of people don't talk about, right? They say, well, generate passive income so you can live off your passive income. And I say, you should not live off your passive income until it's so much money you don't know what to do with it, right? And Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki talks about buying his Porsche, right? He didn't buy it. He bought it out of once he created enough wealth to buy it, and he had a plan for it. And even if you think about it, if he didn't buy the Porsche and he reinvested it, he'd probably have 50 Porsches right now. He probably does anyways. But if you think about the power of, whatever he spent on that Porsche, because the second he drove it off the lot, it depreciated. Right. So there's so much power in that.
Yeah, I love that. I love what you talked about, Trevor, there, the compounding your money. And you used, $100,000. And you can see, I don't know how many cycles that was, maybe 5 or so, but you went from, 6 cycles. So let's say 30 years for the average, projections, what we typically project. And you're going from 100,000 to 3.2 million in 30 years or so.
And you did nothing.
Right. And you you did not put any more investment. You just reinvested that.
So imagine if you put more in, right? Every 5 years you saved 100,000 and put it in, and you kept doing that. You would, it's life altering for everybody, right? That kind of money changes your life, right? $100,000 can change your life, the average person, but 3.2 million really changes your life, right? It's, and then you have those decisions that you can make, right? What am I going to do? You're no longer having, life make the decisions for you. You can make them for yourself.
Right. And then at that point, if you wanted to, you could invest in some cash flowing deals, probably bringing in 300, 400,000 a year passive income and live off of that. But compounding your money, it makes so much sense. And that's our goal as a family is to take our investments when they sell and reinvest them as soon as we can. You know, we don't want to go on fancy trips or buy, you know, I'd love to buy a different house, but you know, the smart thing to do is reinvest and reinvest and reinvest. And then, as you said, until you have so much money, you got to do something
Well,
else.
you got to do something with it, right?
Yeah.
You know, and or you can, and it doesn't change anything, right?
Right.
You know, that's super powerful to be able to be in a position like that. And that, of course, is the pinnacle of financial freedom, right?
Right.
Financial freedom means I can do anything I want. I don't have to work. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. That is true financial freedom, right?
Yeah.
Most of us just try to achieve financial stability.
Right. Yep. So, Trevor, you've been very successful in your 25 to 50 years of employment in the entertainment space, but why real estate? Like, what makes real estate so attractive to you?
Yeah. So again, it's the fact that your money works for you. You're buying a real asset, and then you can't use all of the benefits of the tax things for real estate, but you definitely can use a lot of them. So if you think about it, you get depreciation, and of course there's accelerated, and I don't want to make it too complicated. But for a person with a W-2 job, what I normally like to say, and a caveat, I am not an accountant or a financial advisor, but in general, because of the tax advantages, you will not pay anything on your passive investments because the depreciation and the other things, you know, love them or hate them. The reason Donald Trump could say pays no real estate taxes or pays no income taxes because of real estate, right? The government has said, we want you to have places for people to live. This is a need. And so they put tax incentives in for it. So if you think about it, again, that's why I talked about that compounding, and I didn't make, you know, okay, we got to take 30% off for income tax, and we do it because you do get these losses through buying a real hard asset that you can apply against it. So there's a lot of advantages of it. There's also the advantage of leverage. Yeah. So when you invest in Apple, you don't get any, the owners of Apple get the leverage power. You know, Steve Jobs and all those other people that became billionaires and, you know, they're living off the leverage. The average passive investor in Apple or Amazon is not living off of the leverage, right? And so real estate, if you think about it, right? Let's say you buy a $10 million piece of real estate, you raise $3 million from investors, and then somebody signs a $7 million loan, that gives you that leverage, right? And that the power of the leverage and the compounding and all those things make real estate unprecedented. And the fact that you're buying a real asset, right? There's something there that you can touch and feel. And also everybody always needs it. So if you do an average to good job of managing it and running it and improving it and increasing the rents, and then just time often takes care of real estate, right? Like my house, I don't do anything but live in it. And thank goodness I'm in Austin. We've got some great appreciation here. But I didn't do anything. And it just, because real estate tends to appreciate over time. And then, of course, we have the forced appreciation by fixing it up and increasing the net operating income. But those combination of things combined with leverage make real estate more powerful than any other investment vehicle. And a lot of people, even financial advisors, don't really understand it. And I think they don't understand it because they can't put fees on it. You know, it's that I hate to say, you know, and I don't think they don't get it. It's just not a space that they're in.
Yeah. I love all those benefits of real estate, and want to add a couple points to that. Number one, let's talk about the financial advisor piece. That is, you know, when you say to someone, and I know, and I want to get to this in a little bit too, Trevor, but you want to help 1,000 people reach financial independence through real estate. First off, I absolutely love that. But when you're talking to, let's just say, those 1,000 people, most of the people, most of those 1,000, probably 980 of them have never heard anything about multifamily syndication. Actually, probably 995.
Yeah.
And out of those 995, the reason they haven't heard about it is because financial institutions don't make money doing that. They don't make money because they don't have mutual fund managers who are getting paid. They don't have financial advisors getting paid. They're not making money on their on opening the account. So they don't push it. Why would they push it if they're not getting paid on it? So to your point, they're not evil people, but they're not getting paid. So they're not going to talk to you about it, right?
Yeah.
And then it's people like me, it's people like you, it's people at Massive Capital that have the marketing job and don't have the marketing budget of a multi-billion-dollar corporation. But yeah, I mean, I love that point. And then the other thing I want to talk about, you brought up a simple example of a $10 million apartment complex.
Yeah.
You put $3 million down. So what's great about that is when we go to sell the property, we don't have, the property doesn't need to be 20 million. That's not our goal.
Yeah.
Our goal is 13 million.
That's
right? Because if we get 3 million down from investors and from us, we're just trying to double that in 5 years. So we're not going from 10 to 20, we're going from 10 to 13. So we're only increasing the property by 30% in this example. And we are able to double investors' money. Yeah.
So it's insanely powerful. And you couldn't do that without the bank debt, right? And even with higher interest rates right now, as long as you can make the plan work, the plan still works, right? The plan still works. And it's because you get that leverage. It's the gasoline on syndication. And one thing too that I want to talk a little bit just about that you're buying a real asset, right? There is something there. You know, when I'm buying stock in Apple or Amazon, there's nothing there. And I remember I still had a lot of my money when COVID happened in stock market. And I woke up one day and I was worth 30% less. And I didn't do nothing but some crazy disease attack the world. And I almost got all my money out, you know, and I left all my losers in there because I couldn't stand cashing them in at a loss, you know, and then Russia invaded Ukraine and I lost even more. And I'm like, but my apartment rent went up on the apartments I own. You know what I mean? So, you know, those things, and even during COVID, apartment rents went up because a lot of people moved and did different things and changed their lifestyle and blah, blah, you know. And so everything else was going down. Real estate was still going up. I know we had one big adjustment with the big mortgage crisis and all that, but multifamily was not affected in that whole shebang, right? It wasn't there. It's a kind of a world unto itself. And one other thing think about this, how powerful this is, that 90% of all millionaires became so through real estate. So think about that. Only 10% became rich through Amazon, Apple, Microsoft. Okay. Now we all think of those people, Elon Musk even, right? You know, I don't really know if he owns real estate. Obviously he built a big factory here in Austin, so he must own some real estate, but you know, but you think about that 90% of the world became, but the problem is 100% of the world is living in the 10% bucket. Doing the traditional ways of saving and earning and investing. Pretty mixed up. Yeah,
I love that quote. Man, you're on point with these quotes today. Yeah, and you know that quote was actually said by Andrew Carnegie, and it's over 100 years ago. But I think it's just as true, if not more true, today than it was then. You know, and but a lot of times you're not going to hear about the real estate investors because they don't have these massive brands. There's several out there.
Some that do, but it's just not something that's talked about, and you know, people just aren't understanding it. And we all think that it's millionaires buying apartments. Right. It's not millionaires buying apartments. It's hardworking guys like us that have a little bit of a system. We have connections with investors, and then we have people that have enough net worth to sign on a bank loan. We're not all billionaires buying. Now, yes, those people that are buying office buildings in New York City are billionaires, right? I'm not buying office buildings or apartment buildings or anything in New York City, and probably never plan to. But you know, but when you think about this, it takes a tactic of a super small select set of people and makes it available to the average person, right? And I use $100,000. Most have a minimum of anywhere from 50 to 100, but sometimes you get in deals for 25. And so don't be afraid to start, and don't be afraid to speak to somebody and say, listen, right now I can't come up with 100. Can I come in at 50 or whatever? And you'll find that most people want to get you involved and get you a taste of this, right?
Yep.
And say, hey, are you interested? Because they know once you see the power of it, you're going to keep going.
Yeah, I love that point. And I say that to investors as well. Our minimums have ranged, but typically let's just say $50,000. But I have people that have invested about half of that in deals only because at the time that's what they had in a IRA, a self-directed IRA. And my thought was, hey, absolutely, we want to do this for a couple of reasons. Number one, I was very impacted when I heard about passive investing. At first, I actually thought it was a scam. But then when I went back to it and understood, I learned about it. I was so impacted by it. I want to be able to impact other people that way. And then the second reason, exactly what you said, Trevor, is if they get in there and maybe they have half a foot in the door and they're like, fine, I'll put 25 in or 35 in, whatever. When you hit your business plan, when you execute that and you get those, the deal goes full cycle when it sells, they're gonna wish that they put a lot more in, and they're gonna be a repeat investor. So I love those. Okay,
and
so
let's not miss too. You talked about retirement plan. So a lot of people don't understand this, right? So if you work, you can't move your retirement money. But if you have old money, you can move that money to a self-directed retirement plan, and you can use that retirement plan to invest. And again, it's like, because a lot of people have tapped up money there, and you want to talk about fee heavy things. Your retirement plan, I'm sorry to say, that's why your employer won't let you take it out, and all the people that have it there. It is the most fee atrocious vehicle out there. And we all know what happened, right? When the stock market crashed, who suffered? 401k people, right? I mean, the hardworking Americans that have done their matching with their employer, and then COVID happened, Russia invaded Ukraine happened, and your plan got crushed. Got crushed, and it's a travesty, right? That people don't understand that.
And I agree. And to go a step further, it's a travesty that people don't know what else is out there, I think. And so that's the biggest reason I started this podcast. It's the biggest reason I have people like you on, Trevor, because you were in that same, you were in the same shoes a few years ago, right? And after you educated yourself, now you're on fire. You 28 deals in a few years is insane. But I want to pivot to, and I touched on it in the intro. Your goal is to help 1,000 people reach financial independence through real estate. I love that. Can you, and we were briefly kind of talking about how, hardworking people are in 401ks. A 401k, you have to work, right? I don't know. I don't think you can just open up a 401k without working. So, why do you have a goal of 1,000 people?
So it was funny when I first started out. I thought I'm going to have 100 investors. That's what I thought to myself, and I only thought about myself. I'm going to have 100 active investors, and they're going to invest in my deals. And then I went, wait a minute. That's, first of all, that's selfish. That's just my deals. And secondly, there's so many more people. Now I've got a friend. She has 100,000 for her goal. Nurses. She goes after nurses. And I was like, man, you're on steroids, And I just went, well, and 10,000 sounded unachievable, to be honest, And of course, I'm a big Grant Cardone, so I said, okay, let me 10x that. And then, but to do that, I have to understand that all 1,000 are not going to be my investors, right? But what I want to do is say something that changes the trajectory of how you think about investing. And then, of course, be very careful who you invest with, right? You want to invest with people that you know, like, and trust. We say that over and over and over again, right? Who you give your money to is more important of where you put your money. Okay. A good operator can make a bad deal good, and a bad operator can make a good deal bad, right?
Yep.
So who you give your money to is super important. So get to know people, ask questions, listen to all the guests on your podcast and say, okay, this guy's pretty good. Let me reach out to him. This guy's pretty good. Don't resonate with this guy. Because you have to remember, when we invest, you invest in my deal or your deal, we're partners and partners. And I always say that to my investors, they're my partners. Okay. And in fact, they're the biggest partner.
Yeah.
On my deals, my partners own 70% of the deal.
Yeah.
Okay. They're the biggest partner. They own 70% of the deal. We own 30% of the deal for putting the deal together. So they are the biggest part of a deal. And so my goal was now just let's create this mindset where if I can touch somebody just to move and to do it, and do it with the right person, they'll be hooked. They'll change the trajectory of their life. It will change everything.
Yeah, man, I love that. So a couple points I want to touch on there. You mentioned who you give money to is more important than where
or where.
Yeah, and what the deal is, right? Now, those are important too. However,
of course.
You can, like you said, you can have a very, very good deal completely destroyed and ruined by a terrible, even a bad operator. We saw that in Houston earlier this year. And just for the audience, there was, I don't remember, Trevor, you may know, it's like 1,200, 1,300 units, $130 million.
Oh, 4,200 units. It was a big deal. In fact, an investor who invested in one of my deals lost money in that deal. It took me a while to get him back into the game. I actually drove up to Dallas and had lunch with him and his wife. He said, I got to meet you. We've had a couple of Zoom calls. Could you please come up? And I was like, okay, I've got this. I can add it into that day. And I hope to restore his faith. In fact, I know he invested in a pretty cool deal, but it's super. But the who is super important.
Yes.
And then again, remember, you're going to be a partner with them for 5 years.
Yep.
So you want to make sure that they're saying things that resonate with you, right? We talk a lot about how much money you're going to make, but you want to invest with people, and we haven't talked much about it here because we haven't had time, but about making places better for people to live, that care about their tenants. There's more than money, right? Creating nice quality homes for people to live in is super important. One of the properties that I'm an asset manager for, we're so excited. We do these knock score things, and man, we're killing it. And to me, that's more important than the rents and the delinquency, because we changed people. I mean, we had a tenant appreciation party, and my biggest joy was watching our tenants hug our property manager.
Oh wow, that says a lot.
Yeah, I mean, who hugs their property manager, right?
Yeah.
Nobody, But that's what I said. My goal is that people feel like come to my home, not to my apartment. And again, it sounds fanciful and anybody can say it, but it's just the who is important.
Yeah.
So I always say bet on the jockey, then the horse. The horse is whatever asset class. Then the track is where is it? Okay, and the track can be very micro, right? So I invest in pro landlord, pro business states, but it could still be there's bad places in Austin and there's good places in Austin, right? So the track is it's global, it's US, it's state, it's micro, and it's the wrong side of the tracks, right? At the end of the day, it's hard to create value on the wrong side of the tracks.
Yeah, love that. So Trevor, I know we talked a little bit, you want to help 1,000 people reach financial independence through real estate. Absolutely love that. Besides that, what other goals does Massive Capital have over the next few years?
Yeah, so ours is providing education and value.
Okay.
Because we think providing education and value, like that, so we have webinars every Wednesday night. We talk about all kinds of different topics. Every Wednesday night, it's a free webinar. We have a ladies group that meets every other Tuesday so that we don't miss about the ladies. We do a lot of different events. I speak at a lot of I decided not to do my own podcast, but use other people's stages. And,
Yeah.
Next week I'm speaking at a retirement thing on their Saturday call and talking about, the power of using your retirement money on passive investing in real estate. So we do a lot of education and a lot of helping people and a lot of networking. And the way I look at my real estate journey right now is so the main partners of Massive Capital, man, those guys are switched on, right? So I reached up and I got a hand up in there. They're pulling me forward. Obviously 5 deals in 1 year, but I got my hand back with as many people hanging on to my hand back. And to me, that's what's, that's going to create, and our goal is to create a culture where, people are like, I don't even know what this, have you ever read The Purple Cow? It's about sneezers. So you do such a good job on everything that you infect people and they sneeze all over everybody else that infect them. So, I want people to say, man, did you go to Massive Capital's webinar last night? Man, they were on fire. They produced a lot of drop bombs. And, and on our webinars, man, any question is if it challenge us, we don't mind. And, that creates this great learning environment, this great culture, great community. And that's what's important to us, right? To create a community of people where experienced people sit down and talk to brand new people exactly the same as they're talking to the experienced people, right? A community.
Love that. I love that. I don't know if I have the links for the webinar, and
I can send it all to you.
Yeah, perfect. And then I can put it in the show notes, and that way we're not wrapping up now, but just want to tell the audience, reach out to Trevor on LinkedIn or Facebook. There's other ways too, and we'll let him plug
LinkedIn's
that
the best. Just because I'm running out of friends on Facebook, you only give me 5,000, they can only give me 30,000, and you got to remember the K. So K Trevor Thompson. But LinkedIn, my goal is hit 10,000, and I'm like almost at 8 right now. So, but
awesome.
I got to keep getting rid of friends on Facebook so I can get more.
Yeah. All right. So you guys do webinars every Wednesday. You have a ladies group. I think you said every other Tuesday. Yeah. Obviously, you're on my podcast. I've seen you on a ton of other podcasts. So you're always just trying to get the word out. Education is huge. I love that. You guys are building a community of people, a community of investors, and just provide value and education to them, because what we do, as you know, Trevor, is very, very not very well known. And so I think education is the key, because otherwise people will be like, yeah, it's a scam, just like I was, right? Just where I was.
Everybody.
Yeah. So awesome. That's awesome. How do you think your previous profession, working in the entertainment space for, again, only 25 years, how do you think that your previous profession helped you in real estate?
Yes, so a very customer focused business. And if you really think about it, yes, apartments are hard assets. There's a lot of moving parts, but at the end of the day, it's a customer focused business because your tenants are your customers.
Yeah.
And you market to get them, you keep them happy to get them keep coming, you fix their air conditioning when it's broken, their plumbing, so that they continue to pay the rent. So if you take care of your tenants will pay you the rent back, and they'll accept rent increases, and they'll do things because you've improved where they live. So this customer focused journey has been super important to me. Also, iFly bought back several franchises, and it was the exact same model, right? We came in there, we bought it back from, let's call it a mom and pop operator, an unsophisticated person that was an enthusiast, not a business operator really, but they liked iFly and they bought one. And we come in, we do exactly the same things that we did. So we bring some capital so that we can fix up the place. We bring some improved systems, we bring some marketing, we bring some improved management training. We make it a little more customer focused. Some of the ones we took over, they didn't have online booking systems, things like just and put all those things in and increase the business, and been very successful at that model as well. So again, I was somewhat shocked how transferable my skills were.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really, until I got into it, I didn't really quite know how transferable they were. And then obviously, I loved iFly, and I was a big ambassador for iFly. And now I love real estate investing, and I'm a big ambassador for real estate investing. So
Yeah.
to be honest, I'm super shocked that I'm actually found something I can be more passionate about, because I love I call it delivering the dream of flight. I came up with that tag. I loved it. You know, people that came and worked for us, it was their career, you know, they loved it. They, you know, it's just, and then now I'm doing it somewhere else. I had no idea. To me, I thought I was just going to make some investments and it was going to be heartless. I'll be honest, that's how I first started out, you know, just learn about the business, do it. And then all of a sudden I got passionate about it for myself, and then thought, well, I got to share this with everybody, hence the 1,000 people.
Wow, that's awesome. And it's funny because when iFly bought some of those locations back, a lot of the skills were transferable, but probably none of the terminology. You mentioned EBITDA and I forget what else you said, but it's NOI. It's just a little different, you know.
But it's exactly the same. EBITDA is just earnings before depreciation, interest, and taxes. Yeah. And we call it NOI. And in theory, they're very similar numbers. And in the business world, businesses sell for a multiple of NOI or EBITDA. And in the apartment world, they sell for a multiple of NOI. Yep,
exactly. And then one other thing too, you know, you talked about a customer focused business, and you talked about it from a resident's point of view, but you know, just as important, I think, are the investors, are your limited partners, the passive investors. And I know obviously you guys are doing a phenomenal job providing all that education with the webinars, the ladies group, different podcasts, and just bringing a community of people together. And I love that. I've never really thought about the community side of things for investors, only at apartment complexes with the residents. And I absolutely love that. I may need to pick your brain some more, Trevor, on that, because I love that.
People they want to feel like they belong to something.
Yes.
You know, when I invest in Apple, I don't belong to Apple. I may like their products and I buy it because I like their products, but you know, I want people to feel part of it, right? Yeah. I want people to get meaningful updates. I want people to see the, you know, I mean, you know, I'm super proud. Like the apartment complex we bought, 72% occupancy, we bought it and we hit 97% last month.
That's a huge win.
Super happy, right?
Yeah.
And of course we have, you know, a lot of terms, and we make sure we coach our investors. Like, you know, we did a lot of concessions to get there. I'm not going to lie. You know, we did a lot of different things, but now we're burning them off, fixing it. Yeah. And we're making sure we're communicating that message to our investors so that they learn. But we're also communicating, you know, that look at all the improvements we've done to make this a better place to live.
Yeah, I love that. All right, so we got a couple minutes left, Trevor. Love to talk about a recent book that you've read or listened to that really stands out to you.
So I got the same one, and I'm going to do two. I'm sorry. So if you want to change your world, Audible, Grant Cardone's 10X, and then you got to follow it with Be Obsessed or Be Average, but you got to do it on Audible. He brings it to life, life changing. If you want to just do a real estate book, I love Anthony Vicinio, The Passive Investor. It's a really good book, just so simple about all the stuff we've talked about. And again, on my YouTube channel, I recommend books. There's about 50 books there, all for different reasons.
Awesome. Thank you. You said 50?
Yeah, man. I try to do. So my goal is, they talked about that the average CEO reads this. So I decided, I started doing Audible and I started driving to meetups and stuff. So my goal is to do 52 books a year on Audible. And then at least half of those I like, and I make a YouTube video about them, sometimes more. So I do a lot of books. And then there's some, like, I do the Grant Cardone in that order at least twice a year, kind of reset myself. And I could go on and on about books, and maybe one more, The Go-Giver by Bob Burg. Okay. And that, man, that's an amazing book. It's just about what can I do for people.
Love that. The Go-Giver. Okay, cool. All right, and I know we talked about this a little bit, but is there anything else maybe that you didn't mention? What we can expect to see from you in your business over the next several years? I know obviously education is key. You guys are growing like crazy.
Yeah, and we're switching up asset classes a bit just because of
Okay.
what's happening. So, we've done the value add multifamily, and we're still going to continue to do that. We just did a land acquisition earlier this year where we're going to build some townhomes on it. We got involved in this crazy thing called X Space, which is basically high-end industrial storage, office, work flex space for very wealthy people. It's bizarre. And then we're going to launch now into retail. We've actually partnered up with a group that's very heavy in it. We're going to start doing some of that along with mixed development. Massive has one they bought before I came with retail on the bottom and apartments on top. But we're going to go a little more for that model. It's
Okay.
a slightly different model. Value add, when it works, man, it's a home run. And that's actually one more thing. If you're going to invest in lots of things, what I want you to consider is take a couple of safe ones, like hit a couple of singles, hit a couple of doubles, and then value add multifamily is home runs, right? And sometimes you'll hit like I got one man tripled my money in 20 months. That's a grand slam, right?
Oh,
Man, and again, it was just a perfect storm. But try to balance out a little bit once you start to get into multiple investments like me, right? Like just a couple of states, couple asset classes, just to balance yourself out. And that's what Massive's going to start doing a little more
okay.
of.
I love that. And you said something that kind of got me thinking, balance yourself out. And this is not typically a question that I ask when we're wrapping up calls, but I want to get your perspective, Trevor, because I know, you worked in for a while and then later in your life, you started investing in real estate. Would you recommend people, go after multifamily or real estate as an active investor? Would you recommend they do, work for a while and do passive investments? Like, what's your take on that?
So I tell people to stay in their job as long as they can, but partner with people who are doing it full time. So that those are the people that are asset managers managing the projects, doing the things, because I want you to get that compound in you. I don't want you to have to, if you invest 100,000 and live on 100,000 in 5 years, it's only 20 years, you're not living real well. At the end of 30 years, you'll have $100,000, not 3.2 million. Right. So what I tell people is to get a little bit of synergy going with the compounding and then partner with people that are active. And then you can switch to the active. And it's a little bit different that even though I tell everybody not to trade time for money, as an active investor, I'm actually trading time for money.
Right.
But I'm also passively investing in my own deals. So I'm drinking my own Kool-Aid, right? Like I put my money in along with the investors. So it's a little bit different that I'm actually, as an active investor, I'm very active. I work for we take that 30% of the deal, we work for it. So it's again, I kind of got a new job, but as you get into bigger and better deals and you get a bigger database, the world changes a little bit. But I still passively invest just like everyone else. And I still don't live off of those passive investments. I try to keep growing them. And that's my legacy wealth, right?
Love that. Love that. Thank you. All right. What's the best way for the audience to reach out to you?
LinkedIn is the best just because I don't have a limit on it. So Trevor Thompson, just say I saw you on a podcast. Unless you're a fake. LinkedIn's turned into, I get all these fake friend requests now. Like Facebook is full of it. Instagram, I don't know where those girls were when I was 16 that want to be my friend now, but I don't think they look like that. But LinkedIn, it's there's a nice limit there. I do more business posting there. Okay. So that's the quickest place. And then once we connect and you say I'd like to talk, I always talk. I do have a Facebook group. Massive has a Facebook group as well. But LinkedIn is the easiest because that's kind of more where I do talk about the business side of me, and Facebook's a little more personal.
Yeah, Love that. Okay. So LinkedIn's the best way to reach out to you. We'll put all of your social handles in the show notes, and then the webinars. I need to get that from you. We'll put that. We'll put your YouTube channel in there as well. Best way, like you said, is LinkedIn. If you want to talk to Trevor and want to reach out to me, I'm happy to introduce you. Unless he screens my calls and my emails, which he might, but no.
I don't think I have.
All right. And then you mentioned Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. Is there anything else that we're missing? Twitter?
No, that's the main ones. I haven't figured out TikTok yet. I'm not sure I want to.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
I guess it's not called, it's X now?
It's X. It's not Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not Twitter, but I haven't tweeted yet. So
okay.
So maybe I'll be Xing.
And then what's the your website? What's the best website for you?
So Massive Capital.
Massivecapital.com.
Massive.capital. Sorry, we don't have a com. We're strange. Yeah, Massive.capital.
Love that.
Yeah.
All right. Massive.capital. Perfect. Okay. Trevor, man, thank you so much for being here. I love talking to you. Like I said earlier, last time when we talked, I think you had like 12 or 15 deals as a passive investor, looking for your first deal as a GP, as an active investor, and now you're up to 28. You've maybe almost doubled in the last year in terms of overall deals, just completely on fire. You're providing so much education, so much value to not only your residents, but your investors, building communities. And I absolutely love that. Thank you so much for being here. It's been amazing talking to you.
Yeah, no, it's been an honor. Thank you. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to today's show, brought to you by H&K Investment Group, your home for passive investing. If you want to learn more about how you can invest with us, please check out our website at hkigllc.com. Don't forget to like this episode and subscribe to our podcast. Please leave us a review to let us know how we are doing. Feel free to connect with me directly on LinkedIn or Facebook. As always, I'm your host, Charlie Hardage. Catch you next time.